The spark of war, the Marco Polo Bridge Incident in the summer of 1937. A minor confrontation near Beijing would ignite one of the most brutal conflicts in modern Asian history. On July 7, Japanese troops stationed near the Marco Polo Bridge, or Lugou Bridge as it is known in China, carried out an unannounced night exercise, a standard precaution for an occupying force. Unaware of the maneuvers, the Chinese troops facing them fired, marking the first shots of the Second Sino-Japanese War. Japan, far from being a neutral foreign presence like other Western powers, had long been pursuing a strategy of territorial expansion, having seized Manchuria in 1931 and Rei Province in 1932. The missing Japanese soldier discovered shortly after the skirmish became the pretext for Colonel Renya Mutaguchi to launch artillery attacks against Chinese positions. When the Chinese refused Japanese demands to withdraw, Japan deployed reinforcements. Labeling the situation the North China Incident, which was later euphemistically referred to as the China Incident. The geopolitical stakes were enormous, as foreign powers such as Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union watched the conflict unfold. Meanwhile, Chiang Kai-shek, the nominal leader of a unified China since 1928, faced ideological fractures within his nationalist party and the persistent autonomy of regional warlords. Advisors, wary of the imbalance of power, cautioned restraint, highlighting the catastrophic potential of a full-scale war. Nonetheless, the reality on the ground made compromise difficult, and the struggle with Japan quickly became existential for China. On the Japanese side, hardline generals, convinced of China's subservience to Japan, pushed for an all-out attack, dismissing moderate voices in favor of military aggression. Despite attempts at negotiation, the Japanese army's operational autonomy in China undermined civilian diplomacy, setting the stage for months of escalating violence. The forces at play, military strengths and foreign interests. The military imbalance between China and Japan was stark. Japan fielded nearly 1 million troops overall, with over 600,000 committed to the Chinese theater by mid-1937, supported by a superior navy, air force, and modern heavy weapons. In contrast, China's forces, numbering approximately 1.8 million, were largely fragmented. Only about 300,000 troops were fully trained and loyal to Chiang Kai-shek, while the rest consisted of warlord armies and regional militias of uneven quality and allegiance. Adding to the complexity, about 50,000 communist troops under Mao Zedong temporarily joined the nationalist ranks against the Japanese, armed with a diverse mix of weapons supplied by both Germany and the Soviet Union. The Soviets, motivated by a desire to contain Japan and Germany simultaneously, committed significant resources, including pilots, ground crews, and equipment for 20 divisions. Meanwhile, Germany's support was cautious, balancing access to Chinese resources with a strategic partnership with Japan. Analysts of the period estimated that a single Japanese division could possess anywhere from 3 to 12 times the combat effectiveness of a Chinese counterpart, highlighting the enormous challenge faced by the nationalist forces. In northern China, Japanese offensives were rapid and focused along strategic railway lines. By late July, Beijing had fallen, and Japanese forces pressed onward through Chahar Province toward Zhengzhou and Nanjing. Chinese nationalist units resisted where possible, while communist forces executed rear attacks, but these early victories were limited. Despite orders from Tokyo to halt at specific lines, Japanese generals advanced aggressively, capturing provincial capitals and consolidating control over vast northern territories. Amid this strategic push, Chiang Kai-shek made the calculated decision to defend Shanghai, China's economic hub, hoping to draw Japanese troops south, protect vital supply lines, and leverage international attention. His strategy reflected both military prudence and diplomatic calculation, aiming to turn urban warfare and Western observation to China's advantage. The battle for Shanghai, urban warfare, and international implications. The August 1937 battle for Shanghai exemplified the brutality and complexity of modern warfare. Both sides reinforced their forces, and tens of thousands of civilians fled to perceived safety zones, particularly the international quarters. Japanese naval guns shelled Chinese positions, while Chinese forces attempted counterattacks, including an accidental bombing of the international settlement which killed over 1,000 civilians in what became known as Black Saturday. Urban fighting soon became ferocious, characterized by house-to-house combat and the use of chemical weapons by Japanese forces. Despite being heavily outgunned and less equipped, Chinese defenders leveraged small rivers, creeks, and urban terrain to resist Japanese advances. The city became a stage for testing Chinese strategy against Japan's superior firepower. Casualties mounted rapidly, with China losing between 187,000 and 250,000 troops, including a significant proportion of its best-trained officers, while Japanese forces suffered between 40,000 and 100,000 casualties. The engagement, involving roughly 1 million soldiers, stands as one of the largest pre-Stalingrad battles of the Second World War. Diplomatically, the battle facilitated a non-aggression pact between China and the Soviet Union in August 1937, opening channels for military aid. Public sentiment in China rallied behind Chiang, and nationalist slogans and anthems reinforced a growing sense of unity. Despite the eventual Japanese capture of Shanghai, the resistance demonstrated China's determination to contest Japanese advances and shape the broader trajectory of the war. Marching toward Nanjing, strategic decisions and catastrophe following their successes in northern China and Shanghai. Japanese military leaders debated their next moves, ultimately deciding to press southward toward Nanjing, the nationalist capital. Chiang relocated his headquarters to Wuhan, making Chongqing the provisional capital. Yet Nanjing remained a vital strategic and symbolic target. During the preceding decade, the city had epitomized China's aspirations for modernization and governance, with wide streets, governmental buildings, and the mausoleum of Sun Yat-sen reflecting national pride. Advisors cautioned against defending Nanjing due to the city's vulnerable geography and the depleted state of Chinese forces. But political pressure and the need to demonstrate resolve against Japanese aggression compelled Chiang to stay. German diplomats attempted to facilitate peace negotiations, but Japanese intransigence and Stalin's conditional support limited external influence. On December 5, 1937, 200,000 Japanese troops launched an assault on roughly 75,000 Chinese defenders, only 20,000 of whom were trained. Although German-supplied panzers and armored cars were deployed, they proved unsuitable for the urban environment and were ultimately abandoned. By December 8, outer defenses fell, prompting Chiang's retreat, and by December 12, Japanese forces stormed the city's walls. The ensuing chaos saw the breakdown of Chinese military order, mass civilian displacement, and the targeting of males by Japanese troops. Blurring lines between combatants and non-combatants, the Japanese occupation quickly descended into widespread violence, known historically as the Rape of Nanjing. The atrocities of Nanjing, human cost and Japanese brutality. The Japanese occupation of Nanjing became synonymous with unprecedented wartime atrocities. Soldiers engaged in mass killings, rapes, and looting, often targeting civilians indiscriminately. Estimates suggest that between 100,000 and 300,000 people were killed, with 5,000 to 20,000 women sexually assaulted. The violence was fueled by a combination of factors. The Japanese military had formally abandoned established laws of war in July 1937. Soldiers were subjected to brutal training, and prevailing ideologies cast the Chinese as subhuman. Diaries and eyewitness accounts from Japanese personnel detail acts of deliberate, systematic slaughter. Despite some efforts by foreigners in the international safe zone, including John Rabe, a Nazi party member attempting to provide refuge, thousands were trapped in the ensuing chaos. The atrocities shocked the global community, illustrating the depths of Japanese military aggression and contributing to the growing international perception of China as a victim of Axis expansionism. These events also solidified China's determination to resist, with the nationalist government organizing its forces for continued defense despite overwhelming odds. The broader war, China's resistance, and the road to World War II in Asia. By the end of 1937, the Second Sino-Japanese War had inflicted massive destruction, displacing tens of millions and leaving northern and eastern China under Japanese control. Despite battlefield setbacks, China refused to capitulate, demonstrating a remarkable national resilience that would make the country the first Allied power actively fighting in Axis power in World War II. Japan, while victorious in many engagements, faced logistical challenges. Overextended supply lines and insufficient troops to fully occupy conquered territories. The conflict drew foreign attention, with Britain and the United States edging toward support, while the Soviet Union emerged as a major military supplier, overtaking Germany's earlier assistance. The war's escalation foreshadowed the broader conflict that would engulf Asia, culminating in Japan's eventual surrender in 1945 after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The Sino-Japanese conflict also had long-term geopolitical consequences, including the resumption of hostilities between the CCP and KMT, the beginning of the Cold War dynamics in Asia, and the acceleration of the Soviet nuclear program. Ultimately, the events of 1937 marked a pivotal turning point, not only in China's national history, but also in the unfolding narrative of global warfare, demonstrating how regional conflicts could quickly expand into world-altering struggles.